Alassane Ouattara. The grandfather of Ivoriority in Côte d'Ivoire. The history of Côte d'Ivoire is marked by political decisions with profound consequences for national cohesion. Among these, the introduction of the residence permit in 1990, championed by Alassane Ouattara, stands out for its lasting impact on the Ivorian social fabric. While Ivorian identity reached its peak under Henri Konan Bedi, it was Alassane Ouattara who, through his choices, paved the way for it. Indeed, in 1989, as the country faced an economic crisis, Alassane Ouattara, recently appointed coordinator of government action by President Houphouët-Boigny, introduced the residence permit for foreigners, claiming to replenish the state's coffers. This measure, embodied by Law No. 90/437 of May 29, 1990, marked a break with the legendary hospitality advocated by Houphouët-Boigny, who saw African integration as an essential condition for the development of young states.
Mr. Alassane Ouattara, I'll ask you the last question myself, the joker question that I'll save for last. When you were Prime Minister under Houphouët-Boigny, why did you introduce the residence permit in 1990, which caused so much harm to your citizens from countries in the sub-region?
You know, the residence permit has caused a lot of harm to citizens of neighboring countries. In reality, when we arrived, Côte d'Ivoire was in crisis. A very deep financial crisis. We were looking for money. We had this residence permit project that we implemented because it was supposed to bring in money. Unfortunately, this was used by a number of people against citizens of sister countries. This was unacceptable.
Was it you who decided this, or was it President Félix Houphouët-Boigny who decided this?
No. That wouldn't be appropriate. I found a project in place. I implemented it, and so I take responsibility because I could have not implemented it. So I wouldn't want to accuse anyone. But from the moment we were looking for money, it was a window of opportunity, and we took it on. In reality, the aftermath was bad because people suffered harassment, borderline fraud, and this was unacceptable. This controversial decision led to increased stigmatization of foreigners living in Côte d'Ivoire. The rigorous implementation of this law by the police and gendarmerie, under the direct supervision of Alassane Ouattara, sowed frustration and division. Abuses related to the control of residence permits, particularly against Muslim and foreign populations, exacerbated social tensions. Incidents such as the violence at the Grand Mosque of Ajami illustrate the extent of these abuses. President Félix Houphouët-Boigny, a man of openness, had always promoted harmonious coexistence among the peoples of the sub-region, welcoming figures of diverse origins into his government. Yes, I did part of my studies in Upper Volta, where my father served as a traditional chief. Yes, I represented this country in regional and international institutions, and I am happy about that. The introduction of the residence permit therefore stood in direct opposition to this legacy. By replacing integration with taxation and harassment, Alassane Ouattara fueled a xenophobic discourse that other politicians later exploited. The creation of the residence permit thus paved the way for the doctrine of Ivorian identity. The frustrations engendered by this measure amplified anti-foreigner sentiments, laying the foundations for a national division. While Henri Konan Bedi witnessed the manifestation of Ivorian identity, it was Alassane Ouattara who defined its contours through his actions. Being Ivorian means deciding to identify with the Ivorian people, with their history, their culture, and their fundamental values. To successfully make the formidable leap from tribal or ethnic consciousness to national consciousness, a cultural and identity-based foundation is required. This foundation must be as solid as a fixed point, and this fixed point is called Ivoriority. This is not a legal given like nationality and citizenship, contrary to what many write. Ivoriority is a concept reflecting a cultural project to achieve a harmonious synthesis between the traditions of our various tribes and ethnic groups in their quest for modernity. This project, barely conceived, was artificially distorted and placed at the heart of a controversy amplified by loyal and unleashed media. The objective of this controversy is, of course, political. Ivoriority had to be stripped of its meaning by accusing it of being an obstacle to the integration of certain people into the nation. Ironically, the man who now presents himself as a defender of the people of the North, was actually the instigator of the first divisions between Ivorians and foreigners. At the time, despite being a Muslim and originally from the North, Alassane Ouattara adopted positions that were at odds with his origins, seeking to appeal to Western circles. This double talk, aimed at establishing himself as a modern leader, further reinforced the divisions. Even today, his political strategy is based on a cynical exploitation of ethnic and religious identities. Worse, it is he, the so-called northerner from elsewhere, who is excluding the worthy sons of this country from the upcoming presidential election. History records actions and exposes inconsistencies. By presenting himself as a victim of Ivorian identity, the tyrant Ouattara is attempting to erase his key role in the emergence of this concept. Yet, the facts are there. It was he who planted the seeds of division and rejection of the other, in the name of personal ambition. Chris Yapi concludes that, while Henri Konan Bedi has unfortunately been perceived as the father of Ivorian identity, Alassane Ouattara is undeniably its grandfather. It is up to Ivorians to recognize this reality, and refuse to glorify those whose actions have contributed to destroying national unity. Someone whose mother is Senegalese, whose father is Senegalese, because he grew up with Houphouët, we say he's our brother. However, Alassane, whose mother is from Odiani, we say he's not Ivorian. Tell me which region the name Tiham belongs to in Côte d'Ivoire here. Where does Tiham come from? This is a foretaste I'm giving you, but when the presidential campaign opens up, I'll talk to you. We're in the truth. You're Tiham, I know that he's listening to me live. His father is Senegalese. His mother is Senegalese. But since Houphouët Boigny talks to us about sub-regions, he accepted it. But if we accepted you, you have to limit yourself. Chris Yapi does not lie. Find Chris Yapi on his 2 YouTube channels, his Rumble channel, his TikTok, X, Instagram, VK and Threads accounts.